The rivalry is back on.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Bring the Juice Colts podcast. If you just noticed, it's just me here right now. Cody pretty much had a lot of things to get done today, and the other guys had some stuff to get done too. So you're basically just stuck with me for this episode, for this Week 9 recap of the Indianapolis Colts versus the Pittsburgh Steelers. So, sorry, it's a little bit unusual, I know, but just bear with me here. I'll do my best here. I'm going to try to combine this a little bit as the hold your horses and at the same time, try to be more objective and try to talk mainly about the Pittsburgh Steelers game here. But anyway, like I mentioned, the Colts faced the Steelers in Pittsburgh, ended up losing a nail-biter 26-24. Obviously, the game-winning field goal missed by Adam Vinatieri at the end of the game, in which we're going to get to that here in a little bit. But I think it's only fair that we kind of talk a little bit about the injuries on this side here, because that's pretty much what this week is going to be dominated by, is the Colts, basically how many injuries they suffered. Obviously, the biggest one coming from Jacoby Brissett. Jacoby Brissett, it was confirmed, had an MCL sprain. The Colts have not said that they said that he still has a chance to play Sunday. There is a good chance he can play Sunday, but again, nothing is definitive. So we don't know 100%. I would like to hope that Jacoby Brissett plays in this game, but nonetheless, Brian Hoyer came in this game after Jacoby Brissett went down, went 17 of 26 for 168 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 1 interception to Minkah Fitzpatrick, which resulted in a pick 6. So, and in regards to the other injuries that happened yesterday, there's a couple of them, but the biggest one being, the other one other than that, Jacoby Brissett, was Paris Campbell, where it's being reported Paris Campbell has to have a surgery on his hand because he fractured it in the game, and he is expected to be out for several weeks. They're not placing him on the IR, but nonetheless, he will not be back until at least December. Oh, man, just how unfortunate is this, right, guys? I mean, we already had Pierre Desir missing in this game. Then you have Ryan Kelly go down. That was another one. He had a neck burner, came back for a drive or two, or drive after that, and then in halftime just didn't come back. So I think they tried to see him go past that, but he wasn't able to do that. That is actually the first time all season that a offensive lineman for the Colts has actually gone down with an injury and had to miss some time. So, I mean, it's pretty nice to know that the Colts have been able to sustain health-wise on this offensive line, which has been one of the better offensive lines in the league this year. But obviously, we don't know how long Kelly's going to be out. Could be something he can miss a week or two on. Could be something that they don't. And then Jacoby Brissett, we don't know his timetable. We expect him to maybe be back either this Sunday or the next Sunday, but we don't know for the fact either. And obviously, Brian Hoyer's going to have to take over, and Paris Campbell obviously being gone. Folks, I hate using the excuse of it's injuries happen and you have to, make things happen that way. I know, but I mean, here's the difference here is that, here's the difference. We have our top 3 wide receivers missing now. Top 3. We're already missing our star quarterback when Andrew Luck retired. That was already a setback, right? But we had wide receivers to back that up. But now you're missing all of them. You're basically on what was your second string quarterback. I'm going to be respectful here. It was the second string quarterback until the season started 2 weeks. 2 weeks prior to the season being started. And then you are now possibly going to miss your guy again, and your second string quarterback now, which would have been your third string quarterback. But then again, we wouldn't have gotten Brian Hoyer if Andrew Luck didn't retire, so that ultimately doesn't mean anything. basically you're going off of a guy that, is not as talented as Luck was, and you're putting him now in a situation where the wide receivers are just getting depleted, right? And now you lose another one, and Paris Campbell was having a great game to start. The great game to start. Paris Campbell had 3 rushes for 27 yards in the first half and had 5 catches for 53 yards. He was playing really well at that moment in time. And now you got Brian Hoyer in there who, has been a reliable quarterback at times, but, makes mistakes when that stuff happens, right? And, I mean, he threw 3 touchdowns for 1 interception, but you start to see the drops happen again. Chester Rogers dropped a lot of balls again yesterday. Zach Pascal was phenomenal. Folks, there's so many things I could go into with this. I mean, ultimately, we're now in a tough situation because injuries have really caught up with this offense right now. It was the defense before, but now it's the offense. It completely flipped 180. But 2 weeks ago, half of our defense was out with injuries. Now it seems to be our offense. We're going to possibly miss Ryan Kelly for a week or so. We might miss Brissett for a week or so. We're missing 3 wide receivers. I mean, it just keeps getting worse and worse. And overall, this offense had a decent game. This offense had a decent game. Marlon Mack ran 21 times for 89 yards, over 4 yards per carry. That was pretty good. He consistently ran pretty well in that game. And especially against a Steelers defense that is very good at that front 7. That's actually pretty decent. And, I mean, overall, the Colts had 29 rushes for 139 yards, which is including the running backs and the quarterbacks. Brissett was 4 of 5 before going down in that game, so he was doing really well. Brian Hoyer, besides that one bad throw that he had, it was actually pretty good. But I'm still not going to sit there and say that, that pick 6 should not have happened. He never saw the safety. It stinks to see that he missed that, and it cost us points. It's sad because in a game where it may come down to the wire because both offenses are limited, you can't make mistakes like that. You can't make mistakes like that. And to go away from the offense here for a minute, I want to congratulate this defense, actually. I know a lot of people are thinking, oh, but they gave up 26 points. No, first they only gave up 19 points, okay, because they didn't give up the pick 6. And there were 2 times that the Colts put their defense in a situation where the Steelers were already in our territory by the time they got the ball. They were already in there by the time they got the ball. So this defense, when backed up several times inside the red zone, inside the goal line, they somehow were able to keep them getting 6 points the first 2 times they went into the red zone. The first 2 times they went into the red zone, they were at the 3-yard line, and the Colts were able to stop them. That's very impressive. It was showing you a little bit of what the Texans game was like that one time. And then you had, obviously, they held them to field goals, which kept us in the game to begin the whole thing, right? And then they obviously had the touchdown to Vance McDonald on the curl screen route for him. So that one obviously stunk. And other than that, I mean, they got an interception. Kenny Moore got the interception to start the game. That put the Colts in very good spot to start the game, but the Colts did not score a touchdown in that first drive. When they started at their own 40, they only ended up getting 3 points, right? Marched all the way down inside the red zone, just couldn't do anything to stop it. And then after that, when you started seeing it, they really started exploiting our weaknesses, right? They threw the ball. I'm going to make sure I get this stat right here. I want to make sure I get this. So, the Steelers had 26 catches yesterday, right? 191 yards. Mason Rudolph had himself a pretty good game overall. I mean, he had 26 for 35. It was a pretty accurate game, but he only had 191 yards, right? Only had 191 yards, and they and obviously through Brian Hoyer and Brissett completed 21 passes for 189 yards, and Rudolph had another 5 extra passes and basically had only about 10 yards more, right? So overall, they were not throwing the ball deep. They were not beating us deep. They were beating us with the simple running back out of the backfield. You know how many catches Samuels had in this game? 13 catches. Half of the Pittsburgh catches in this game were to their running back, which ultimately extended their drives, which was killing us. Now, I will give credit to a lot of Colts fans out there that saw the big issue was Darius Leonard and a couple of other guys were really out of position. Really out of position. We could not stop Samuels for the life of us yesterday. Was getting 6 yards per catch. And other than that, their receivers really didn't beat us that much. They really didn't. But ultimately, Samuels kept extending drives. And then, obviously, Trey Edmonds with 12 carries for 73 yards, right? That first run that he had was a 45-yard run. If you take that away, 11 rushes for 28 yards, which would only be about 2.6 yards per carry. So, I mean, if you discount the one run that he had, he really didn't have that amazing of a day. But the Colts just could not stop them in the pass game when it came to throwing the ball to Samuels. That was the issue, especially early on. Samuels was taking advantage of it. They were able to get into the red zone and were able to get field goals. And then that Minka Fitzpatrick interception for a pick 6 was obviously the ceiling point to the half. And obviously everybody wants to mention the special teams, right? The special teams was the big factor in why this game turned out the way it was, right? I'm gonna not talk about Vinatieri for a second. I'm gonna exclude that out for 1 minute. What the heck was happening with the kick returns and the punt returns? 2 fumbles. You lost 2 of them in this game. 2 fumbles. One from Paris Campbell and the other one from Chester Rogers. It's just Chester. I'm going to try to stay calm here, folks. I'm going to try to stay calm. I understand. I'm sorry. I'm getting emotional here. I'm still not over this game because people want to complain to me all the time about how special teams are not important in the NFL anymore. Yes, they are. There's a lot of things that can go wrong in special teams. You almost never see anything positive with special teams, but you see the negative. The negative outweighs the positive every time in games like this. You can't fumble the football. You can't fumble the football on kick returns and punt returns and give the Steelers easy field advantage. You can't. You can't do that for any team because then you will get beat. That's the issue. And then the fumbles aside, then you have the referees. The refs were terrible in this game. I know everybody likes to say the refs are not the biggest reason. I'm not saying they're the biggest reason, but they were a lot of the reason why this game turned out the way it was. It was ridiculous. It's garbage. That unnecessary roughness on Bobby Okereke on that punt return late when he was called for that. I don't even remember why they called it. I don't remember if they called it because they thought he fair catched or they thought it was helmet to helmet. But guess what? There wasn't either one. There wasn't either one. He didn't call for a fair catch, and there was never helmet to helmet. And Bobby Okereke didn't even lead with his helmet. It was ridiculous. It was a stupid, stupid call. And that's not even the only one I can mention. The stupid one with Darius Leonard where they threw the flag 5 minutes after that the receiver, Washington, was already on his way out to the field. And then they threw it. I thought that they were throwing that flag because somebody on the Pittsburgh Steelers sideline tried pushing him and then he just swung his arm to get him off him, and I thought they were going to call the flag on that. But then they said unnecessary roughness, late hit. That's ridiculous, man. It's ridiculous. He threw him out of bounds while he was in bounds. He didn't throw him when he was out of bounds. He threw him while he was in bounds. That is not a late hit. That's not unnecessary roughness. He grabbed him and threw him out of bounds. Made sure he was going out of bounds. That is not unnecessary roughness. That's ridiculous. I tweeted this out the other night. I tweeted this Sunday night. I said, it is sad how these officials have no accountability. None. The NFL will fine coaches and players for saying how blatantly bad these officials are, but yet when these officials screw up calls, they don't do anything about it. It's ridiculous. It's getting... I feel like I'm having mad deja vu because I did this on my other podcast that I did. It's ridiculous to me that this is what it's come to. There's no compromise, there's no punishment, there's no figurative action for when these officials do something bad. There's nothing. Then the NFL just says, "Oh, well, this was supposed to be not supposed to be called, or this was supposed to be called, or I'm sorry, we apologize to the Saints or whatever team for messing up the calls." It doesn't work like that. It doesn't work like that. Sorry, I had my little moment. It was really frustrating to see so many calls go against the Colts in pivotal moments when there were not fouls. It's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. Now, passing off blame here to another piece here. I'm going to go to the Vinatieri kick here because everybody has been talking about that for the Colts here the last few times. Look, I'm not going to blame Vinatieri as much on the kick itself, on the field goal, because Pat McAfee, the Colts media, they're right. Hitting it on the laces is not a good thing. It's not supposed to happen that way. It was bad on the snapper for the way he snapped it, because contrary to what people believe, the way you spin it and how you hold the ball, it helps dilate where the ball might end up, where the laces might be. And then it was bad on the holder for not being able to fix that, right? I mean, obviously Pat McAfee missed it, or Pat McAfee. See, I'm going to say his name again. Vinatieri missed it, but McAfee mentioned it, how, unless he actually saw it in the last blink second and was able to adjust his foot to make him go right and then have it go left, then it would have been a miraculous kick. But you can't kick it with the laces out. You can't. It's just not supposed to be the way it is. Now, Vinatieri does deserve some blame in this game. He missed an extra point in the second quarter that would have put us up by 7. Now, because he left the extra point low, Cameron Hayward was able to reach up and was able to block it, which I know doesn't necessarily mean they would have won, but that extra point does leave a moral compass on you, and he just missed it because it was so low, and it got blocked. I hated that. I think he obviously cost us another point here. And I think I can agree. I think I speak for all of Cody, Andrew, Sam, and the other guys that are on our team here. And if I get something wrong here for Sam and Cody and Andrew and all these guys, I apologize. You guys can call me out on it if you want, but this is my view, and I think we all agree here. Frank Reich's in the wrong for saying that we stand by Adam Vinatieri. He's in the wrong. I don't stand with Adam Vinatieri right now. I don't. 2 games so far this year have basically been lost to us by kicking, by points and kicking. The first one against the Chargers, where he gave up, where Vinatieri left 7 points on the field. And then he basically another 4 that was missed in this game as well. And there's been a lot of games where he's come close. He almost cost us in the Denver game as well. I understand where Frank Reich is coming from. I understand that, he wants to show confidence. He doesn't want the locker room to become the way of some of these other teams, like the Browns and the Jets and the Dolphins. I understand where he's coming from there. I know he's doing it to keep the locker room co-synced as a unit, right? We all understand that. We all understand and we agree that that's a good thing to do. But you got to start making accountability here, bro. I'm sorry, Frank Reich. I love you, man. I think you're a great coach. I think I'm so glad you're part of the Colts, and I'm glad that you're going to battle with us every week. I trust you. But I don't trust your judgment on this one. I don't. Vinatieri needs to be taken accountable for the way he's been playing this year. He's only hit 70% of his extra point attempts. 70%. And his field goals aren't better either. I mean, his field goals are roughly the same. You're telling me somebody else can't come in and kick 85, 90% of these extra points? Somebody else has got to. We can't keep going like this. We can't keep having this guy keep missing extra points and missing field goals. I'm sorry, but at some point, it's starting to take advantage of him psychologically. You know why he was aiming it so low? Because he wasn't trying to kick the ball so hard. Because I know the wind in Pittsburgh was not bad until later towards the end of the game, before he missed that extra point. It's starting to get to him psychologically. And that's when it's terrible for a kicker, because it's never physical with a kicker. It's always mentality. That's what it is, to make sure you're focused and you're ready to go and kick it whenever it's necessary. I really am trying not to. I don't want to put a bad name on Vinatieri. He's the GOAT. He's the GOAT of all kickers. He's going to go down as a Hall of Famer easily. And I'm sure he's definitely better than some kickers out here. He's definitely better than some kickers out here in the NFL. Some kickers are terrible. But when it's starting to cost you games, you have to start taking accountability for players not performing and doing their job right. And Vinatieri this year, he's been up and down like a roller coaster here. How many more times is he going to cost us games? How many more times does it have to happen, Colts, before we make a change here? I know it's not easy to find kickers, but you got to do something. Can't just let it keep continuing. And that's pretty much what it is, right? We kind of talked about how can the Colts stop the run game of the Pittsburgh Steelers. That was one of my keys to victory. And other than that first run, the Colts did a relatively decent job of stopping the run. But we got beat in the middle of the field again by Samuels. Got beat again by that. It just continues to happen. I kept yelling at the TV, can we please put a spy on Samuels? 13 catches. Do you know what the second leading receiver for the Pittsburgh Steelers had? 4. And that was Washington that did that. 4. He almost, hold on, I'm going to check this stat again because I want to make sure that I get this right. Yeah, he had half of their receptions. So if he had half of their receptions, that means he's out. He pretty much had the same number of receptions as the rest of the wide receivers for the entire offense. Why can't they just put a spy on him? And even if they did try to, then you really have to start paying attention to the team, right? You have to start paying attention to Darius Leonard and Anthony Walker and these other guys. I think what our issue is, guys, is there were a couple times last year, especially halfway later in the season, when the Colts really started picking it up and started playing better. they started feeding off of the energy of Andrew Luck, who was starting to play phenomenally great, right? And it was taking some of the pressure off of the team because Andrew Luck was compensating for a lot of this stuff. Even though the Colts still had issues, they were more well balanced. Not saying that Jacoby Brissett hasn't done that, but he's also not elevated them the same way as Andrew Luck. And it has come down to a lot of the Colts, the rest of the Colts team to help carry this team to what they want it to be, right? And you're starting to see the sophomore slumps of a few guys, right? Starting to see a few sophomore slumps. Anyone that wonders, the sophomore slump is real. Okay? There's no denying it. Darius Leonard had such a phenomenal season last year, and he's looked out of place a bunch of times. I get it, and, he missed a couple games early. I know. I'm going to give him blame because he is supposed to be the leader of the defense, and he's been average so far this season. He's been average to above average at times. That's about it. And Mark Lewinsky obviously has not had a great season, and Braden Smith has had some issues as well. But here's my defense of Braden Smith. Here's my defense. The last 3 pass rushers he's had to face has been J.J. Watt, Von Miller, and T.J. Watt. 3 of the best edge rushers and basically pass disruptors in the entire NFL. That's what they're good for. That's what they're born to do. And a second-year guy is going to have issues doing that. And that right side of the line is going to have issues with that. You have to adjust to that. And I know that Chris Ballard's probably going to be looking for another person on the right side, probably, because we're starting to see this right side of the offensive line start to get exploited more and more. Now, obviously, Braden Smith, I think, is going to get better as time goes along because he's younger and he's still dealing with having to face so many great pass rushers, right? For this game here, it's just another cool reminder that this is the NFL, and injuries happen a lot, and unfortunately, you roll with the punches, you win some and you lose some. You lose games that you're supposed to win, you win games sometimes that you're supposed to lose. It's just how the NFL works. And let me just say this on a positive note that I think the real Colts fans can get behind here. For any of you idiots out there that are saying, go and fire the coaching staff, get rid of Darius Leonard, he's a bust, get rid of Braden Smith and Mark Lewinsky, they're busts, and all these other things, get rid of the coaching staff, get rid of the GM, get rid of everything here. What? Stop being that person. Stop. This is what I hate, is that there's so many of these Colts fans out here, or wannabe Colts fans, that keep saying that the Colts need to do drastic things when they lose. Chill. Do people still not realize that this is a team that's still rebuilding? We still have a lot of young guys on this team. They're still so young. I think we kind of forget the fact that Pierre Desir is young. Kenny Moore's still young. Malik Hooker's only in his 3rd year. Darius Leonard's only in his 2nd year. Anthony Walker as well. We got one guy on our right tackle spot that's only in his 2nd year. Left guard Quentin Nelson's still going to have a few issues at times. Folks, it's okay. We're not expected to win the Super Bowl this year. We're not expected to. We were when Andrew Luck was there, but we don't have Andrew Luck anymore. Just kind of calm down a little bit, okay? Obviously, there's issues from everywhere. Chris Ballard's going to have to start spending money, but we're going to get into that here at another time. The coaches need to do a better job of game planning, right? Or adjusting during the game, right? Eberflus needs to do a better job of adjusting his game plan. And Frank Reich has to adjust to the offense to be able to put Brissett and Brian Hoyer in a better spot instead of going to the same spots that are getting them beat. And special teams has got to stop killing us. We got to stop dropping passes. We got to stop fumbling the football. We got to stop missing kicks. We're in every game, guys. We're in every game. The Colts lost their quarterback, didn't have 3 of their wide receivers for most of this game, if not all of it. They lost their star center. They didn't have their best corner playing. I mean, and we're playing away in a new field, and we still came within this close to winning it. This close. Be happy that we're at least keeping these games here. We're not getting blown out by these teams. The 3 losses we've had, we've only lost by so little. Folks, it's okay. As much as this loss hurts, it's going to be okay later on because we're still going to get it figured out. The great thing is we got the Dolphins coming up this week. From what I hear, they're going to be missing their 3 best players in Xavier Howard and their running back Walton, who was just suspended by the NFL for, I believe it was, don't remember if it was a drug policy or if it was violating NFL rules of some kind. But he's going to miss this game as well. And they got rid of Kenyon Drake, so that's a big plus. And I think one of their offensive linemen, I believe, is they're missing. So this Dolphins team's also going to come into this game with fewer people than needed, a lot less depth. And, I mean, this is going to be a injury-plagued game, unfortunately, for the Colts. But this will still be one that we can figure out. And we're going to talk about that here later on this week when we talk about the preview for the Dolphins and the Colts. All right, thank you guys so much again for tuning in to the Bring the Juice Colts podcast. I really hope you guys enjoyed it. I know I'm sorry Cody's not here or anybody else was able to join me. I'm sorry. I know it's just only me, but we got to get this podcast out, and I appreciate anyone that watches this and is willing to give us some input here. Thank you all again so much. Hang in there, Colts Nation. It's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. We're going to figure this out, and then we're going to come back. We're going to win. I'll give one more quick good thing to mention. The Colts are going to face the Dolphins, the Jaguars, the Texans, and the Titans here in the next 4 weeks, right? I think that was the schedule. And if not, I'm sorry, I maybe missed a team there. But the Texans are also going to have, they'll have the Patriots, a bye, I think the Ravens, and I can't remember what team they face next. But they got some really tough games coming up here in the next 4 weeks. We have one of the easier ones. And they have the bye week, too. So if we win these next 2 games and the Texans have a bye week, we can still retake the divisional lead. So things are still looking okay. All right, that's it, Colts fans. Thank you so much. And as always, go Colts.